Hey everyone, today I want to build you a character in Vigilante City, the superhero supplement for Index Card RPG. Now, Vigilante City is a super fun setting. It allows you to play pretty much any superhero, really get into that world and the sandbox that is Vigilante City. But the character creation process does have a few intricacies to them, although with Master Edition, it did pull everything much tighter to what you're used to. But I just want to go over some of those details and creating that character for you. Following the advice of the Ultimate Effort show that was just recently released, instead of doing my normal process of kind of going through the book and then eventually coming upon my character as I do it, I went the other way and found a piece of art that spoke to me and then came up with the character and my general concept before I ever came up with my stats. So as you can see here with my character sheet, I've already got my art. It's this kind of techie young guy or whatever. I imagine sort of like a tech genius with a steampunk flair. I thought about calling him Copper Man, but that sounded a little weird instead of Iron Man. So I went with Collin Copper. He's a vigilante. He's from Vigilante City, and he's a human. But as for type, I'm not quite sure yet, and we'll get to that as we look through the book. But I've got also over here in the world section of Master Edition, the Vigilante City is included, and it goes through all of the world building, the flavor, kind of what sets this apart from other settings within the world. And it's a lot of fun, a lot of great detail for an open sandbox type approach to your city. You know, things like how to run block events, how to run different areas, lots of little tidbits that you can build off of without getting into a ton of detail. You know, Smog Alley, Uptown, all that kind of stuff. And so after you approach the world section, we start talking about the heroes. And immediately what it tells you is just in these bullet points, you're going to be building with 12 points, stat points instead of 10, which can be spread out between any stats and any effort, as it kind of points out here. Select one starting loot from Vigilante City or any world. That means, you know, Alfheim, Warp Shell, Blood and Snow, Altered State, anything. You can pick a starting loot, select starting equipment from any world, so anything you want to fit your concept, and then select 3 powers and 3 properties. Now, this is if you're wanting to pull from anything that's already set up, but as always, you can customize and start out with pretty much anything that you work with your GM on. And then we start talking about vigilante points. Now, this is a more narrative concept that you can or may not include in your games, and this is a kind of a sliding track of how your heroes are being, you know, in the world. Are they good? Are they evil? What happens if they're fully good? What kind of benefits do they get if they're fully evil? But this is something more that you'd want to work with the GM as you play to include narratively, and perhaps some mechanics come from it. But we're not going to really get into the vigilante points as I create this character. All right, now we've got starting equipments. And for ease, like we said, it's 12 start and then 1 starting loot from anything. I'm going to just pick stuff from Vigilante City. And so my starting equipment is 3 items from below, or anything from the world. So let's see. For Collin Copper, my tech genius with a steampunk flair, I'm thinking, well, he's definitely got to have a utility belt. You know, he's definitely going to have that here. And there was a really good question a while back of like, I think it was on the Discord or on the forums about like how do you write down your stuff on your character sheet without like all the space. I mean, this has 3 medkits, 3 smoke grenades, rope, and 1 remote trigger explosive brick. For me, a lot of the times I'll write utility belt and then I'll have the book to reference, but then otherwise it's still that shorthand approach. I mean, I can still do like 3 med, 3, you know, grenades, you know, rope. It's whatever I feel I need to remember is what I'm going to write down. Otherwise, I'm going to try to memorize it and keep it in my head and just reference the book as I need. So I've got utility belt. Let's see, what other stuff would I have? He's going to have an ion pack, which allows him to fly. You know, so fly, D4, recharge. And let's go with that microcomms. Let's allow him to have a way to keep touch base with his teammates. So microcomms. And then let's go with, yep. We'll just go with that. And so you can see here that it did not include any of that starting loot, that big kind of punchy item that lists out kind of what you know, that first thing that you might build synergy off of based off of, you know, what you might see in fantasy. So that's really up to me to decide what my starting loot is going to be. And so let's see what I can do here. For starting loot for this guy, let's go with something along the lines of, so he's got his energy boost. Let's do something about this belt. Okay, you know, ion pack charge, and we'll do crystal belt. And I'm thinking it'll affect something along this the idea of stun points, helping him out there. So let's maybe swing over to magic, and let's pick something from the starting equipment in magic, and see if we can find something maybe I can reskin. Let's see. All right, let's use this one. So crystal belt for instead of the iron heart shard. I guess instead of the crystal belt, I will do this one, and I'll erase here, and I'll just say the iron heart shard. That he stores in his belt, and it says use int to recover, then recover con +1 is normal. So int is recover. And we'll go with that. All right, let's get back to Vigilante City up here in Master Edition, and then let's continue on. So we've got our basic equipment. We've also got our starting equipment, and we don't have a starting ability because we're going to get those in powers and properties. Let's keep going a little bit further. Here we are. And then there we go. Sorry, just got to keep things rearranging as we go. All right, so then here's some stuff that you might see in, say, Blood and Snow and in Magic. It's know your past, a little bit way of building characters. So I know that he's a steampunk kind of genius, but like, let's know my past. What is my character's origin story? And perhaps I would roll for this, or I can say that that I just chose this. And so for my origin story, I'm thinking he was probably just born this way. Or maybe his willpower. Let's go with willpower. That sounds a little bit more appropriate for a techie guy. Okay. And then let's think about his future. What is his overall goal? What is he hoping to achieve? And I think what he's probably thinking of is let's do restore order. Okay. One street at a time, you'll get this city back on track. How this plays into his overarching arc, I'm not sure yet, but just having these origins and these, you know, his mission can really kind of set the character apart and give him that motivation. All right, so then let's talk about stun for a second. So in similar to Magic and in Vigilante City, you have a secondary kind of pool called stun, or SP. All heroes start with 10 points. Increase your stun points by receiving max points as a reward, you know, things like that. Anytime your attack damage or hit anyway, whether you resist the damage or not, lose 1 stun point. And then stun points cost, powers cost stun points to use. And then once you hit 0, you are stunned. You can no longer use your powers, and if you're driven into negative stun points, you fall to one unable to go on. And then you can recover stun points on your turn with a typical recovery roll, make a con roll, recovering 1 plus con plus 1 HP and stun. Now, stun is a great concept and a great way of kind of controlling the order of things, because you have all these powers. There's got to be that limitation, that choice of when you use them. The one concept that I usually say, you know, maybe you don't really need is anytime you're attacked, damaged, or hit anyway, you whether or not you resist or not, is you lose a stun point. That's a totally, in my opinion, a house rule that or thing that you can hack in and out of. I usually don't play with that. Heroes spend their stun points fast enough that I usually don't have to worry about that, especially when they're fighting mooks. But just something to keep in mind. Otherwise, we're essentially going to have down here a secondary slot of, you know, stun, where he's got, you know, actually let's just do a star here. So he's got 1 here, star equals 10 SP. And so now I'm tracking my health and my stun. Okay. All right, so then it kind of goes over making stun matter, which is some great advice on how to, you know, play out the feeling and get the feeling of that superhero approach. And it's really going to be fast. It's really going to be quick, but great opportunity to look through here. And now let's talk about powers, because we're still talking about character creation. Essentially what I get to do is choose 3 hero powers, and I can choose any of them that I want, or I can make up my own with my GM. But a lot of these are good base plates that you can then tweak. So for example, if I want to do energy blast, I could tweak that or reskin it to be fire or ice or energy or wind or whatever to fit my character concept. But for my Collin Copper character, let's see what he's thinking. I'm definitely thinking he's got to have Mega Brain. So I'm going to write these down in the power section. So his first one is Mega Brain, super smart. I may not go into the psychic visions and mind control, but let's just do Mega Brain. And then we can probably do something, definitely gadgets. And let's see what else has he got. I think we're gonna go with something along the lines of like acrobat. Okay, so I've now chosen my 3 powers, and this is what it's going to look like once you describe them and maybe put them down on your sheet. And so let's look at acrobat. Is the first one. So here's the things that I have. For 1 stun point, I can use any terrain to maneuver, roll dex to roll, swing, flip, tumble, whatever to move far, and then when moving, you cannot be harmed on that round. So spend a stun point, I get to do that. Spend 2 stun points, I get to invade and attack instantly once per round with a dex roll, or if I spend 3 stun points, perform a stunt on your turn, describe any feasible move with all kind of possible or specific outcomes, and then make it with a dex roll. So the challenge that you're going to have is really wanting to have all of that detail listed down. And so from my experience, you're really just going to have to get a feel for what this is, and then just jot down what you want to be able to do, or what you need to remember. And for me, acrobat is do stunts with dex, you know, and then whatever. And then maybe the one that I really want to remember all the time is this SP2 evade attack. 1 time per round. Okay, so now do stunts with dex, SP2 evade attack, and that's the thing that I want to remember. And I'm going to do the same thing for gadgets, which is, you know, fix any mechanical anything mechanical with int, create wondrous gadgets from scrap with int, or change, combine, modify, you know, to then do whatever with int. So again, I'm going to be marking mechanical stuff, with int. And then we're going to look at Mega Brain, you know, make super intelligent psychic, make any intelligence whiz attempt with no roll, gleaning neat detail, read thoughts, memories, and intentions with int, and extend your mind reading power or plant thoughts or real message in a number of targets within a mile with an int. Okay, that's one that I'm a little sketchy on. I might tweak that a little bit. I'm just not sure yet. But essentially, you know, I want to remember for SP1, I want to int /whiz no roll. Okay. If I spend 1. Okay. And so then we can keep going through that, and then we start coming up with properties. And this is stuff that I would probably put down in, you know, in this little note section. And so these properties are just little things to, again, refine your character concept. Ammo for days, been there, done that. And you just kind of look at here. So for example, if I chose ammo for days, have clips and ammunitions, any weapon that uses has unlimited capacity, right? All right, not going to do that one. Not immortal, invented. All right, we're definitely going to do invented. All your powers are results of oddball inventions and objects. So invented, what that means, it's sort of like property is almost like a tag. Let's see, what else could he do? We're definitely going to do sanctum. He has a hidden base somewhere, probably in the basement of his parents' house, just for kicks and giggles. And then we're going to say he has a supercar. That sounds fun. All right, and then we've got weaknesses. Now weaknesses are optional. You can include this. So it says if you voluntarily take a weakness without the weird weakness property, instantly master one of your powers. So if I choose to take a weakness and include that in the game, I can master one of my powers. And what that means is any of these powers becomes everything costs 1 stun point instead of 1, 2, or 3. And when it comes to mastery, the game kind of has still, you have the 20 points of mastery that you could totally use. In the book, it mentions 4 steps of mastery, which are almost like milestones, or, you know, they're just kind of moments that you hand out. And so as a GM running this game, it kind of depends on how long you want to be before your players start gaining mastery in their powers. If you're going to run a one-shot, definitely keep it to like 4 moments. If you're going to run a longer campaign, I personally would just run through this mastery 3 or 4 times, especially because you're going to be getting them every time you roll a d20, plus you could also be getting them anytime the GM hands them out. Again, it's totally up to you. And that's essentially it. I could also, you know, for these powers I could list out here, I could also list out some key abilities from those powers that I really want. Like we said here, SP1 int roll, I could have put that up into my abilities, and I could start getting a feel for what are the most common actions that I'm taking as my hero, and then writing those in abilities. But I would still have the book and my own kind of recollection of what those powers do after working with the GM to kind of make them my own. And now let's talk about those 12 points of stats. Again, part of my method is I really like ending my character creation with stats, because I get to use the stats to flush out the character instead of using the stats to maximize myself first off and then building a character around that. And so for Collin Copper, I definitely think that he's going to have some dex. Let's go with +2. His intelligence is definitely going to be higher, so let's go all the way to a +3. Charisma, he'll say +1. He'll do weapons and tools will be another one. Mostly the tools. So he's going to do +4 there. And I'm at 4, 6, 9, 10. I got 2 more points. Let's go with +2 on basic. Okay. And so there's my 12 points that I've spread out. It just so happened to be 6 and 6. I could have put more points in effort. I could have put more points in stats, but that's kind of where it is. So now I've got Collin Copper with a +2 dex, a +3 in intelligence, +1 in charisma, +2 and +4. And then he's got pretty much a defense of 10 right now. He doesn't have much armor at all, but that's okay. And that's Collin Copper, my superhero for Vigilante City. Let me know if you have any questions about Vigilante City in the comments, or if anything didn't make sense. I'm happy to explain it again. And then again, in the future, I might make one for the 2nd edition version, which is slightly different. It takes a slightly different approach.